Hello and welcome to our third quarter of Discover Love Matches. I am Jacqueline, professional matchmaker of Discover Love Matches and the creator of Discover Love Academy. And I am so excited as we've been doing this program throughout the year, we're able to bring back our presenters and really build a powerful relationship. And the neat thing is that you get to learn more from the same speakers again and again and really find what clicks for you, what you want to learn more about, and what is inspiring you. So for right now, our wonderful speaker that is going to jump on is Tiffany. And I would love, Tiffany, for you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, what inspired you to be a part of Discover Love Academy, and we're going to talk about eating for love. I love this topic.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I really love the Discover Love Academy idea and what you're doing with your group and bringing all this, content to them and support, because I think it's definitely much more than just boy meets girl at a bar, right? Like there's so much more to it because, people really, I think, want to be in a place of being ready for success in the love arena. So I love that. So I'm Tiffany Theon. My business is Coach Tiffany RN. So I'm an integrative nurse coach, which means people think of me as like health and wellness coaching. And so it means that I'm an RN and I can coach people in all things health and wellness because of my nursing background and then also some additional training that I received to specifically be an integrative coach.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So, today I want to talk about eating for love. Right now, springtime, I feel like everything's in bloom and, people are out being more social and eating out more. And in my coaching practice, food has become more, I've been stepping more into talking about food. Many of my clients come to me because they are struggling in their relationship with food and finding that, one person said, I'm either doing the whole 30 or the whole opposite. And so, finding that people are in this cycle, right?
Right.
Where they try to eat perfectly and kind of like manage and control that, and then they kind of fall off the wagon and eat all the things and then feel bad about it and beat themselves up and kind of go through this cycle. So, that kind of having to think about food all the time and the frustration that comes along with that. So what I'm doing is helping people transform their relationship with food so that they can really nourish themselves, but also feel good about feeling good about nourishing themselves, but also having some balance and flexibility and really embracing food and satisfaction around food. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the class today.
That's awesome. And food is so powerful. And when I meet with new clients and they're in this like transition, losing weight and wanting to get themselves single and available, ready to move forward and really put that, sign out there and say, hey, I'm ready to meet someone. Often there's residual weight from a past relationship. There's emotional weight, but a lot of people, unfortunately, gain weight in between relationships, or they gain weight when the relationship isn't doing well. It's a comfort to have food. And if you've been raised in certain ways that food triggers things, it's hard because so often that gets you lopsided on what the real purpose of food is. So I love how you're talking about food as nourishment in a loving way and making it positive. We all have to eat, the gas tank needs to get refueled. We have to stop at the station and get what we need. But if we don't eat the right things, we're not getting the right message and we're not getting the right response. And food is such a powerful part of self-care. So this is really, really important topic to discuss with our amazing singles.
Thank you so much. Yes, so I love that you brought up, kind of past habits with food, or their relationship with food is really complicated. And so a lot of times during transition periods, or like you're saying, we can tend to lean on food as an emotional support, but also our stress levels are going up during those times, and so we tend to have the stress hormone cascade happening, which then a lot of times creates cravings and struggle, and so breaking out of that can be really challenging. But one thing I like to encourage people to do is really look at what's your past experience with food? What cultural expectations did you have around food? Growing up, was food kind of a last minute, microwave TV dinner type thing? Or did you have, perhaps a parent, usually a mom or a grandmother, who would like make stews and these things, because that can really play into what feels nourishing to us. And whether or not we really use food as a tool to nourish our bodies, or if we use food more as like it's almost like a necessary evil, right? Like, I just got to get something in because I'm hungry.
You're like, I'm hungry. And that's actually really powerful when you step back and think how you were raised with food. Like I'm one of 8 children. So my mother would make spaghetti, and I grew up thinking that was the coolest dish in the world. And I didn't realize until I got older, no, my mom made it because it was cheap and easy, but she had a way of making things that you thought were so special. And, you know, it was a really big honor that it was like, oh, it's spaghetti tonight. You know, and my kids caught on later on in life. I used to tell them like what happened. It's my growing up with it. And they're like, oh, that's why you made spaghetti all the time, Mom. I didn't realize it. But it was a nurturing dish because it was Mom. But, you know, I don't think even Mom made anything custom with it. You know, it was pretty basic, but the way she did it made me think that it was a very special meal that took time. And that association is really important, because I do believe strongly in what you're talking about, that a lot of times people, you know, they're just told to fend for themselves. We used to have a foster daughter, and I would talk to her about like, well, what did you and your mom do eating? She goes, oh, we never, because I went to their house. The mother was passing from cancer, and she ate in her bedroom and the mom ate in her bedroom. Like the table was covered in stuff. There was nowhere to sit in the house, and they never had mealtime. So when she started staying with us, she was so surprised. She's like, I've never sat at a table eating food with everybody. And even if she kind of did, it was at a restaurant with her mom occasionally. But our family, we had so many get-togethers that she was like, I never thought of eating was part of conversation and community and connecting. And that was a really big change. So that's important to realize, that when you're dating, you might meet someone that's never really eaten with a bunch of people. They might have just eaten by themselves, and they've never had that experience.
Yeah, and I love that you pulled all those pieces together. So, you know, one of the things I really encourage my clients to do is let go of the judgment around food and really put on that curiosity hat of like, oh, what is going on here? And like you're saying, so, you know, spaghetti for you is something that it's like a family meal, and, you know, it's something that is probably pretty satisfying to you and like feels, you know, like comfort. Yeah. My stepbrother's partner loves spaghetti, and he would say, oh, spaghetti dinner, whenever we'd make spaghetti. And like you're saying, to me, it was like quick and easy, you know, like you make a big pot of it and it feeds everyone in the house, you know, and, but he made it like, oh, this is like a special thing. We're coming together as a family having spaghetti dinner. And so now that's actually become something for me, like, oh, it is special. It's also great because you can customize it. Somebody's gluten-free, you can do rice noodles, or you can do spaghetti squash if you're trying to eat, you know, really clean. So it's also something that, you know, I enjoy that way. But then, as you were mentioning, you know, for some people, it's, you know, it hasn't been a way of nourishing, right? And there hasn't been a lot of love there associated with it. And so bringing love into our relationship with food and really looking at it as a way of like, we deserve to have nourishment in our lives. And then bringing in those elements of what makes this feel special to me. Is it, you know, eating out of a bowl? Is it warm food? Is it the people that I'm connecting with over the meal? You know, so bringing in elements that make it more satisfying without that judgment. You know, so when you remove the judgment, you can look at like, oh yeah, this is how I was raised, and this is what makes it special to me. So you can bring those elements in, perhaps sometimes without the pieces, you know, maybe not as much of the like French bread, right? That we, a lot of us have like spaghetti and then like a pile of bread on top.
Oh my God, yes, hello.
So, or, you know, we can remove that judgment and decide, hey, this is a really special meal to me and my family. I am going to enjoy all the French bread, right? But it's really about looking at it without that judgment. And I wrote a blog recently about this, and you know, that our worth and our value can't be reduced by what we eat. So I like that. Yeah, we have this idea that, oh, I was good or I was bad, or I, you know, shame around what we eat. And so understanding that our value and our worth is constant, even if we eat the whole thing of ice cream or, we didn't eat any vegetables for a week, like it's,
right.
we can take that layer off.
That's huge.
And then look at our value and our worth and have that help us embrace a loving relationship with food instead.
Well, I've noticed that I was a young mom, and something that triggered me early on, and I might have mentioned this before, but I've always kind of commented in the statement to people that, when your kid falls down and scrapes their knee, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, let's go get you some ice cream so you feel better. Well, you condition that response. And so later in life, when they have a boo-boo of life, the first thing is to go and get the pint of ice cream or the gallon of ice cream out of the freezer, because they were taught that that's how you comfort something that makes you sad or hurts you. And so people don't realize that association so much, and then they wonder why they're going in for that craving when really they've been taught that will make you feel better. Instead, let's go take a walk. Let's, get a hug. Let me bandage that up. Let me, let's go see a movie. Let's go do something. And by helping that separation of really why, because I feel like so many people give food so much negative power when food is we need it. We have to eat multiple times a day. And it's really beautiful when it's grown and taken care of and nurtured. And people would always laugh when I said I like doing dishes, and I don't even have a dishwasher, and I love hand washing dishes. And for me, it's like but I have these people to cook for and have a meal. And I'm not a cook, that's for sure. But when I see the dishes, it means that there's people around, that I have a home, that I have a place to nurture that. And looking at it as a positive thing instead of looking at it as a dread, because the dishes equal nourishment went into your body at some point, hopefully good stuff. So interesting how our childhood impacts our thought process.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and that's kind of the main nugget, right, is looking at it from a slightly different angle in a way that is what is nourishing to me. So, if I hurt myself, what would actually be nourishing rather than, some ice cream? Maybe what would be nourishing instead is, a hot bath or a walk, like you're saying, or talking with a friend, and so looking at it from not just food as nourishment, but bringing nourishment into your life. Mm-hmm. So.
I like that. And really knowing that there's so much goodness in taking the time to prepare a meal, or, I think it's kind of funny. There's a TV show called Blue Bloods. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they always emphasize Sunday night family dinner. That is in every single episode, and it's the whole family comes together. And I've noticed that they've placed it differently in the show. It used to be the last part of every show. Now they put it about 3/4 of the way in. And so it's interesting that they're trying to set that example as a visual that whoever's available comes, but everybody always shows up. Like nobody misses Sunday dinner. They don't even really talk about who made the meal. They always stop and say a blessing, but they make a point to really acknowledge everyone at the table. And I think it's such an interesting TV role modeling that people at home forget how important it is just to stop and talk. And food is happening, but the conversation is there. So you're bringing up such valid points that I think people have missed out on these opportunities. And with dating, like you ask someone to go to happy hour, it's not just because it's, you're having to buy the person food. It's talking to them while they're eating and adding nourishment makes such a difference in the love language of connection.
I love that. Yes. So using it as a basis for a relationship with ourselves, and then using it as a basis for connecting and perhaps building a relationship with another person. It is a way that we connect. And culturally, unfortunately, I think in America, we've really lost some of that. But it's interesting because there are studies out there that show if you enjoy your meal, you actually absorb more of the nutrients of the meal, regardless of what you actually ate.
I like that. What if you're just doing a drive-through all the time and you're just eating on the go and grabbing out of your chair and dropping fries down? It doesn't work. Like I live in the city now, and I was commenting to a friend, I go, I don't go through drive-throughs anymore. I don't drive much. I just walk everywhere. And, so my car has no French fries in it, like it did in suburbia. I got fries a few more times than I lived in suburbia. That's for sure. It is very interesting, the different mentality of when, you're eating. And if I'm by myself, I'll often go down and have some happy hour and sit and chat with the bartender and take my journal with me. So I'm enjoying a glass of wine, having some, inexpensive, yummy food, and engaging with the environment, not just isolating. And that's the thing, when you're single and you're looking for love, it's very easy to do all your stuff by yourself. But there are so many ways that food can be an element to meet people and strike a conversation, because it's kind of fun to go and look at somebody else's plate and go, what did you order? What is that? That looks good. That drink looks good. It strikes a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so food can be such a great centerpiece for those connections, and I loved what you were saying about just really relaxing into the meal. So that piece is huge, because we actually shift out of the fight or flight stress response.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and into a relaxation response, which or the rest and digest response. And so we, not only do we absorb more nutrients, but we actually are better able to digest our meal. And on top of that, we're reducing our stress. When we relax, we become present, we eat mindfully. That can make a huge difference.
That is so, so huge. I think that people forget how important it is that stop and watch how you're chewing. I mean, people that are just on the go and they're not thinking about it, they're gulping their food. They're not even chewing. And don't you need to chew a certain amount to get the digestive juices going?
Yeah.
Salivation. I've heard about that. And I think that that's where a lot of people end up with all these intestinal problems and, just heart, whether it's high blood pressure because they're eating too fast, or they're not, they're just eating all these salty foods. They're not taking care to just appreciate the food and enjoy it. And then it makes a big difference on their body. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and actually your hunger signals, it does take a while for your hunger signals to kick in, and you're going to be more satisfied with what you ate if you slow down and really taste it and really enjoy it. So it also can help with not gaining weight, that kind of thing, if you're really slowing down and enjoying it. And then you just end up eating less because you feel satisfied and more full.
I love that, because I am the slowest eater. Anyone that sits with me prepares that I am the slowest eater ever. I talk a lot. And even when I'm not talking, I just take my time. But I had learned early that it takes 30 minutes for the brain to know you're full. And so when you're just scarfing down your food, you think you're still hungry, but your brain just hasn't caught up with you. Mm-hmm. And, it's something that I just never eaten fast. I guess even with 8 kids, my mom just kept giving us enough food. So we never were in that, you better hurry and eat it or you're going to miss out on eating, because large families tend to eat fast.
Yeah, you got to eat it, or someone use their fork, right, and steal it.
Exactly. We just do that for fun, my daughter and I. And it is so interesting, the association when people are going on dates and they're eating, because there's that, do you share or do you not share? I think food is very symbolic. I always tell clients to get some happy hour that's easy to share, because it's kind of gross if you're both eating out of the same bowl. But if you get a pizza and you can both have a slice where it's not my pizza and your pizza, it's neat when you can see how the two of you can share some food. And if they eat somewhat proper, because some people really eat yucky and don't have manners, and some people eat really nicely, and some people, as one time we had this workshop and this one gal was talking about it, she loves watching people eat because that shows how they make love. And I'm like, well, it depends how hungry they are.
Yeah, are we eating ribs or are we eating a salad, right?
Right.
It's a difference and how easy. Yes, so I love that. So part of, preparing for this, I was doing a little digging, and actually there is Zusk.
Yeah, I think it's called
okay, yeah. They did a poll, and they actually looked at people's online dating profiles. And people who mentioned food in their online dating profile actually got way more messages.
I love it.
So people actually are drawn in when you embrace your love of food, right? But like you're saying, if someone's rushing through the way that they eat, or these things, what I really recommend is making sure that you eat well throughout the day, so that you're not starving when you go out on your meal, because Yeah. And then really, like you were talking about, relax into it and really enjoy the meal. Make sure that you are connecting with the other person, connecting with your food, ordering food that's actually going to be satisfying. So, there's the whole,
Right.
cliche of a woman ordering a salad, right, on her, and not that salad's bad. It's not a very engaging type of food, and you're not, like you said, going to share it, right? So choosing something that is, really that you really enjoy, not just something you think you should be
Exactly
ordering, is a better option, because, the other person's going to get to know you based on what you choose to eat. And it's a way that you can use it as that basis for the connection.
Right. Yeah, I think that's actually so important. I mean, in salad, it's hard to eat with another person. Those lettuce pieces are popping and the tomato slice is falling down. And, you're trying to eat it, but you're covering your mouth because it's too big of a piece. And it's a little tricky. And I think that there is that representation of, oh, I'll eat meat. And, if I don't want to share with somebody, I'm going to order a bowl of soup, because I know, like, I don't want to get in that awkward position where they're going to ask if we can share. So I'll order some soup. Okay. But if you're, when you're trying to meet and get to know someone and feel a little bit closer, you want something that is just light to eat. And I really like that you bring up eat before, eat during, throughout the day, but also eat something, because that's the worst too, when you get to a date and you think you're going to have some happy hour and they're like, oh, I just had a big lunch, you go ahead and order something. And you're like, well, I'm kind of hungry, but now I feel like an idiot because I'm eating by myself. So even if you're not hungry and you kind of oopsed on what you ate earlier, you ate too much, order something light. At least order something so that you are engaging, because that is really, really awkward when one's eating and the other one's not. And it just feels like it's not a mutual shared experience when you're at that point.
Yeah. So I love that you just said that. Yeah. So looking at it as a mutual shared experience, right? And so, so by choosing something that really is authentic to you, but also honors where your body's at, that's really valuable, because you're able to relax. I feel like I'm a little glitchy, so hopefully it's not okay. So, if you're ordering something because you feel like you should order it, not, like you're saying, if you need something lighter, go with something lighter, but be prepared to eat something on the date, and use it as a tool for engagement, instead of, like having kind of anxiety over it. But also be mindful and, choosing foods. I definitely wouldn't choose ribs, right, on a first date. You don't want something super heavy in case the date's going really well.
Get all over yourself. So we always were taught at a young age, don't eat spaghetti on a first date. It's not as attractive to see eaten.
Yeah, all the garlic. Yeah, so I love the happy hour idea. I love the, like caprese salads are really good because you can use them with a fork, but they're, they're super flavorful. You can enjoy that. Or, now that we're going into spring and summer, there's going to be more fresh foods. I love going to Asian places because it is easy to share those little dishes.
Yes.
Or, there's a lot of places that have like the small plates, that you can order several small plates.
I love that. I think that's one of my favorite parts. Happier, yes, it's cheaper, but really it's the portions are manageable. And then you can have like a couple little bites and then a couple of bites of the other one. And you're just kind of experimenting and trying new things. And it's great conversation pieces. Mm-hmm. You're like, what do you think? And then you can really find out if they're, not really ready to date because they're doing the choo thing, trying to get you to eat. No, I'm not your child. But it's that fun of just seeing how people interact around food, because it's a very safe conversation place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that poll that they did, because people really, I have it over here. So, people really did love it when they, that was included as part of their dating profile. And, I wouldn't have all the messaging back and forth about, still, if you're more of a traditional person, maybe the van will choose. If not, or if you have food allergies or something like that, you could say, oh, these are some places that I really enjoy or something. But, not to say it should be this constant conversation about food. It's more of the engagement,
right.
Once you're there.
I agree. Yeah. And I love that they did research that food brings that forward, because food is a common denominator. Like everybody has to eat, whether they've got food allergies or not, they still have to eat, and other than if there's a medical condition, extreme. But that helps because obviously people respond to animals and activities, but food, to say, you like chocolate, you like things, it makes a difference. So what were some of the food words that you found were more positive and the words that you found that were a little more negative?
Yeah, so the study, it was it's funny, it's kind of random. So guacamole was the top one.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know. And chocolate was on there. Potatoes.
Why potatoes?
I have no idea.
Are you a hearty eater or what?
I guess so. Like if you're the kind of person who eats potatoes, like, yeah, you like, like that meat and potatoes kind of,
yeah,
your ribs, but even like chocolate, salad and sushi actually were up there as well.
Oh.
Yeah, but people didn't like, they didn't like yams, weirdly. So that was one that
I love yams.
Big no. And fried chicken was like right out.
That is so funny because that's kind of like a joke of people and, let's just go get some fried chicken. But it would be interesting demographically if it's different in the South, like goes excited, for fried chicken, where different parts. But that is a big one. So all of you guys listening, make sure you do not have fried chicken on your profile because that is the only reason you are not getting messages. Yeah. But it is. People can relate. We know what that is, whether it's good or bad. I'm like, you talking about fried chicken on a picnic? That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, and what stuck with me is that it was real food that people really, there was a couple of things like, burgers or pizza,
right.
But still most of the food on there was real food. So, sushi, even cheese, bananas, just stuff that's actual, quality food, I think.
Right.
The difference. And that kind of goes back to the idea of really nourishing yourself. Are you eating, Pop-Tarts for breakfast, or are you eating,
right.
Maybe like a veggie omelet for breakfast, right? Like real food versus kind of that cheap and easy and quick,
Mm-hmm.
So this is not something I normally say, but I recently heard somebody say, you are what you eat, so don't be cheap and easy.
Like, amen to that one. I like that.
I got a good laugh.
I like it. I agree.
So yeah, treat yourself with, eating quality food and show your date that, you respect them and that you're there to engage and really enjoy the experience together and that you're very fully present with it. That's, I think, the key with dating is don't shy away from food, but also, do it in a way that you won't feel, you don't want to have sauce all over your face, right? So
exactly. Well, and I think the food even shows, did you eat it all? Did you waste some? Did you need to eat most of it? Were you aware that the other person was supposed to get one of those bacon wrapped scallops that you missed? Like, are you presently aware of sharing? And I think it's a really big quality when you're dating to kind of get a feel for how somebody picks through the menu, how somebody shares while eating, how somebody checks to see how you're enjoying. It's nice because it gives a focal point. Like on dates, I'm often like, people watch, interact with the staff, have lighthearted things to talk about. Well, food's a safe conversation for most people. And it's a way to just kind of get a feel, because the truth is, if you end up being together, you're going to be eating together a lot. So you know, because some people eat with their mouth full and are just a bit unpleasant, and other people, microscopically. And it's funny how like some people will chew, or bite-sized eating, I should say, like they cut their food so small. And then you notice the people that I always kind of laugh, because you can tell those that weren't necessarily taught how do you eat with the different silverware. I was just at a banquet kind of meal for a presentation, and there were like 8 people per table, and it was nicely set at, Portland City Grill. So it was a very nice dinner. And I'm like watching going, these guys have no idea which fork to use, which plate is their butter plate. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take the bread and I'm going to pass it, because you guys have no idea which way it's supposed to go. You have no idea how to like turn over your fork at an angle to let the server know you're done eating. There was only one guy on the table, I should say. He did know how to do that. And I'm watching, and then a lot of people are like, which is my butter plate? And, and I'm like, sometimes it'd be kind of nice to get caught up on that. I thought I should teach a class on this and have that again, because I didn't realize how many people, very successful professionals, don't know. And that would be awkward on a date when you're kind of like, and it was simple. It was only two forks. It wasn't like 5 forks, crazy dishes. It was just the basic appetizers, a main meal, and a dessert, and then the coffee option later. But I was amazed at how many people really didn't know, were using other people's butter plates and just not sure what to do. So sometimes we need to brush up on a few of those things. So, you're bringing in so many important elements to figuring out how to be more present, where you're not distracted on what butter plate should I be using.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So yeah, if you're going to a nicer restaurant for dinner, definitely, feeling like what to do so that you're not anxious. It kind of goes back to that embracing. So, brushing up on that. But I think you've made a really good case for happy hour also, because if you don't know, just say happy hour, because then there's not like
totally.
There's little plates and it all works.
Yes, exactly. Like all little plates, we're all good. Because I was like, if this was a first date, it'd be awkward. I was kind of sitting there. Most of the people were married, and I was all like, well, you know what? I'm eating the filet mignon. I'm enjoying all of this steak, and I'm going to have a second roll because I'm not trying to impress anybody. But I actually had that conversation. If I was on a date, I probably wouldn't have had the second roll. And it's just that mind thought that we have of looking like we're eating too much. Oh, I'd probably leave a couple more bites. Well, no, that was a good filet. I'm not going to miss out. So, we have those conversations at all stages of our lives. Every man and woman decides how much they should consume in front of the other person. And if your audience doesn't care, you might consume a little more. And it is very interesting to see. I love watching people when they're eating and how they're carrying themselves and having conversation or, interaction.
Yeah, I love that. And it is, like you said, it's a way to really learn about the other person. Because, I think the goal of the date is really to see if there's a connection, but also see if it's somebody that would be a good fit for what you're looking for. And so, if somebody suggests like, Jack in the Box, you might be like,
That's so exciting. Yes.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
If they're, and especially around like adventurousness, right? So if you're somebody who you like to eat a lot of, different cultures, you like to experience different foods and try new things, you'll probably get that message from the other person, whether that's something, they might suggest something really safe, but then you can kind of talk about, oh, what foods do you like? And
I love that. You're so right. And we're almost out of time. And it made me really think about how many times, somebody will go on a date and the person just wants a chain restaurant where the other person's like, can we be a little adventurous? And it says a lot about the person. Now, it doesn't mean that they're limited. It just means they haven't been exposed. So it's a great conversation, like you were saying, is to go, I eat a lot of Asian food. And, a lot of times I meet people and they're like, I don't know what to do with that. And they're just used to pasta, they're easy with the Italian foods. And so it's kind of saying, but would you be open to it is a great conversation piece. And then finding out if they are, and if they're not, that's something to kind of know. Okay, well, I'll save my Asian dishes for somebody else. But that is a good conversation piece. So before we run out of time, what are some of the last little nuggets you want to share with our awesome group? Because boy, we could just talk about this forever. I love it. It's so important, and food is so powerful. It's so exciting. Like when you have a date invite you over for dinner and they already have breakfast items in case you decide to spend the night, because they're prepared in a good way instead of going, oh, whoops, I didn't think you were staying. It's romantic when it's done appropriately. So there's a lot of ways that food can encourage a positive response.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I am. Yes, we've talked about so many great things, Jacqueline. I feel like we could talk forever.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy, participating in this. For me, I think it really goes back to that open-mindedness about it and using it as a way to, really kind of looking at it from a scientific standpoint. So both in your relationship with your own relationship with food, but then also bringing that into the date and really seeing, using it as a way to learn more about that person. So start out learning more about yourself around it and learning to really nourish yourself with food and use that as a base to then go into the dates with, using it as a tool to connect and embrace and learn about the other person. And then also, as a tool to see whether something's a good fit for you or not. Because as you mentioned, we have to eat 3 times a day. And if we're with someone long-term, that's a lot of meals potentially together. And they don't,
Exactly.
they're not adventurous, or they don't like, the same types of things as you, or, like you're mentioning, they're kind of getting it all over the place and they're washing through their food, might not be the best fit.
I love it. I so want us to talk about this more, and I really appreciate everything you're sharing, because I know our listeners are like, oh my God, I totally just ate off that guy's plate and picked something. I just met him and then we never went out again. I'm not really maybe that's why, then there's others where you're like, God, it just felt so natural. We just felt like we've always eaten together and that we just kept wanting to. And there's something really powerful about that. And there is so much love in food. We can make it a loving, positive opportunity. We have to allow that because it's there. Food is beautiful. Food is wonderful. And food is important, and taking the time to enjoy it and appreciate it, but also knowing that our partner might be coming from a negative upbringing with food. And so I love that. And I love too how you talk about at the beginning, it really triggered on me where I've got a lot of clients that are, as I was saying, trying to lose weight. And it's really easy to look at a profile and judge them as an overweight person when we haven't really let them do their own transformation. Maybe they haven't lost weight because of the past, but some really good loving can help you lose weight. And it's just about eating better food than being in that negative space that was holding on to the food. So you've brought up points that are just so important and just waking up a lot of our listeners right now. So I thank you so much, Tiffany. You are just excellent at what you have to share with our incredible Love Academy.
Thank you so much. And I love the focus around love in general and how you have, just brought so much, you really brought so much love, with the content and everything that you're doing for the group. And, I have a family member who has participated in some of your activities, and that's been really cool to have somebody, that I can refer people to that I know you value, all of the complexity of love, but also how much it can be, you bring more love to the world as well. So I value that. And I think with this topic in particular, our culture doesn't teach food as being, a loving thing or a way to connect very much. And so connecting with ourselves and connecting with, connecting with food instead of trying to push it away, right? So for people who are in that situation where they're wanting to lose weight, and they're struggling with it, rather than this kind of tight, uncomfortable control, having more love, embracing, and as I mentioned before, when we're relaxed and we're enjoying our food, we actually digest it better. We get out of that stress response, so it can be a tool for being loving to ourselves. So
I love that. Yeah, I always say people can lose weight but not gain a personality. So you can be super skinny and be not so nice, and you can be overweight and fabulous, and the weight will fall off as you are ready for it too. But your heart is still real and pure for who you really are. So thank you, Tiffany. You are such a delight for our group. You bring so much energy and excitement, and I love that people are going to be like, hold on, do I have food in my profile? So I'm excited for that.
I want to hear what foods, if you get a chance and you notice, what foods are people saying in their profile and what kind of response do they get?
Absolutely. You guys heard that. That's your homework. Let us know how the food triggers your positive profile responses. So thank you again. I appreciate all that you do for our group, and thank you for referring wonderful people to us and supporting love in so many ways.
Thank you.